So, this is the Oz report for September 17th, 2023. So excited for FanFest. Going to see all of you either in Iceland or live on Twitch on the upcoming Friday at the latest. In Iceland already on Thursday. All right. So, having said that, let's look at the in-game market, starting with the Plex and Plex adjacent items. And the first thing, of course, that we're going to talk about is finally skill extractors recovering by 10%. All right. This is huge to a lot of investors, large and small, to be honest, because I think so many didn't just follow my call, but I think everyone's call, whether it be Reddit or our Discord, everyone and their mother in June, I think, tried to invest as much as they could into this skill extractor market that was just destroyed by their 2-for-1 sale in June in the NES store. So, no matter whether you bought at 300, 350 or 400 million, you will be very happy about the current 460 million price of skill extractors. And that means most people have now recovered and made profit on their skill extractor investment. Having said that, I've said this many times on the stream. For the Delta Fund, I bought 1 trillion of these, 1 trillion back at the cheaper price. So we have some very happy investors right now because 10% on 1 trillion is just a whole ton of money. Trying to keep this clean for podcast and YouTube. So that's skill extractors. Speculating on why this price has increased now. I think one big factor is that the large increase in skill farms has eroded the supply of skill extractors. If we look at Adam for Eve, we can actually see that the supply of skill extractors overall. Let me just look it up over here so I can show it on stream and for the video version. Adam for Eve is currently slower than usual, but the available supply of skill extractors has been going down since June, and so yes, there are huge stockpiles out there, and yes, there's going to be a lot of people liquidating their stashes, but and here we see the graph. You look at the available sell volume, that's the green graph over here. You can see that it's going down, and we're almost at the levels of pre-sale before the sale was going on. And so we had a lot of skill farms. Being spun up. At its height, the profit from skill farming per account was at 2 billion. If you subscribe with Plex for a year, now we're at 1.4 billion, and that just means, as the price for skill extractors starts increasing and the price for large skill injectors starts coming down, this is just moving closer and closer to the equilibrium. And so certainly at 460 million that we're seeing now, we're going to see a lot of people liquidating skill extractors and fulfilling that demand that we're seeing on the skill farming side. So overall, this is not surprising. The market is doing its thing. I don't know if we're going to see 500 million. It would be awesome, but not sure if we're going to see that in JITA. Certainly 460 million. I'm going to think about liquidating some parts of my stash as well. And if you're thinking, oh God, Oz is going to start liquidating his 1,500 skill extractors. If you look at the daily trade volume, the daily quantity, even right now, is not very high, but the 1,500 skill extractors I own are not even one trade day in JITA of skill extractors. So this is a massive market that is not easily swayed by single stockpiles. Plex price is rising again, so we're at 4.9 million right now. We do have some sales going on in the NES store, and that is for some Foundation Day and Liberation Day packs. So we're seeing, some packs on sale. This is typically a reason why people would buy Plex. Plus, when they need Plex to fund their skill farm. So that's another thing that that people will use Plex for, right? So the price of Plex and skill extractors is very much married. One, because Plex and skill extractors is both what's needed for skill farming, and two, because you can buy one for the other. Having said that, if you're looking at the price, the conversion price of buying skill extractors with Plex, right now it just doesn't make any sense at all. And for that, I can go back to the Adam for Eve graph right here. You can see that if you're looking at the light blue and dark blue lines right here, that's the Plex conversion buy and the Plex conversion sell. So if you're buying skill extractors with Plex, and right back before that insane skill extractor sale in June, those were very close to each other. That makes sense, right? Because if one is higher, people do the one. If the other is higher, they do the other. And so that would just intertrade and kind of self-regulate itself. Now, that sale made the market completely out of whack to the point where nobody in their right mind is going to buy skill extractors with Plex, because it's so much cheaper to buy skill extractors with ISK. And so right now, this is completely out of whack, but we're moving closer to this being a topic again, even though this is going to take a very, very long time. What would happen is we would have to see skill extractor prices rising to the point where this, or Plex prices dropping to the point where these lines get close to each other again. Now, going back to what we're seeing in large skill injectors, again, there was a massive drop and then a recovery over the last 2 weeks. Still, I think the overall direction of the large skill injector market is still on its way down for all the reasons I just said. With skill extractor prices rising, yes, that puts a dent into skill farming profits, but they're still profitable. So right now, it's still not at a point where large skill injectors should be rising in price again. Organic demand for large skill extractors is just not big enough to counteract the massive amount of large skill extractors coming from the increased amounts of skill farms. So, I think the overall direction is still down. So I am absolutely short skill injectors and not long skill injectors overall. I try not to own any except for ones that I generate. So that's that. If we look at the cerebral accelerators, it looks like the Master at Arms cerebral accelerators have finally kind of peaked out. This recovery that we were seeing throughout July and August in Master at Arms cerebral accelerator prices, it was kind of unnatural anyway. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, and I've said this before, because if we're looking at the conversion prices of ISK per skill point, it just makes for the vast majority of people, it makes a lot more sense to buy a large skill injector because they're just cheaper. However, over 90, if you have a character's over 50 million SP, then it does start making sense because the skill point is cheaper using a Master at Arms cerebral accelerator. And the question there is just, does the number of players that are requiring the Master at Arms cerebral accelerators, does that exceed the number of people doing retroactive recruiting with their 1 million SP referral codes, because that's the main source for these Master at Arms cerebral accelerators now. So it seems like we've found some sort of equilibrium around 95 million. Having said that, I am selling all of them, right? So this is a price point where I don't see them go any higher. Master at Arms cerebral accelerators are all leaving my hangar now because this is a good price, right? So we're getting rid of all of them right now. And yes, this is hurting my efforts to sell them. However, I always say I want to stay true to my word. I don't hide any information behind my own investment, so I'm not going to benefit at all from that. So yes, you will. If you go out to the market right now and you are seeing Master.arm large chunks of Master.arm Cerebral accelerators on there, chances are that I am one of them, because you remember in December, January, I was saying these were way too cheap, and I told you all to buy them. So, we've all made 20% now. It's time to sell them again. By the way, I am also one of the largest recruiters in EVE Online. I'm pretty convinced, and so I also get these through true Recruiter Friend awards. So I always have these, and so I'm always hoarding these. And right now is the time where I am definitely going to sell them. Now, let's spend 5 minutes looking at the rest of the items in EVE Online. So one thing we're definitely seeing, we're seeing trigger units go through the roof. They are in very short supply, so they're basically gone from the market, and they've increased 6% in price. So if for some reason you have trigger units lying around, right now is the time to sell them. Or if you have a chance to salvage them, or if you have a large salvage operation in your corp or your alliance, right now is the time to turn these in for profits, because they have spiked tremendously. Something else that's going on, geckos. We were talking about that on chat earlier. Geckos, they have increased 30% in price. Geckos, the source for them is one of the events. I believe it's the Egg Hunt event. I'm not sure. That wasn't confirmed earlier in my chat, but I think it's that Gorista event. That didn't happen this year, so I think the amount of BPCs that is around, that is the only source for geckos, is just much less this year. So it was probably only a question of time until the supply would dry up and the price would jump. And plus, this week, we've seen a jump in Rattlesnake prices, one of the most popular ships in EVE in terms of ISK per day traded volume. The Rattlesnake jumped 12%, and that uses Gecko, as someone rightly said in chat earlier. So there's a connection there that's obviously driving the price for geckos up right now. Having said that, if we look at let's look at trending down first, right? Let's look at trending down first. We're seeing Fullerite gas clouds, right? We saw gas clouds 2 weeks ago after the Dread Brawl. We saw it spike, and now it's all coming down. 20% down on Fullerite C84. 24% down on C32, so definitely Fullerite gas cloud materials coming down significantly, and we also seeing mutaplasmids. So some of the most expensive mutaplasmids are coming down in price around 20%. Looking at most underpriced, because that's one of my favorite categories to look at. Last week I said Platinum is a good buy, right? It came down even more in price. So right now, Platinum is trading 25% under the yearly average, all right? It's a moon material, and moon material live from the cycle of sometimes it's profitable to mine, sometimes it's not. Sometimes there are production spurts using a lot of moon materials for T2 production, for example, and sometimes there's a production lull, right? So these prices go up and down. Still, I think when a moon material is trading 25% under 52-week average, then to me it's a good buy, and I have invested heavily more into Platinum, even though the price is coming down even more, right? Titanium, another raw moon material that is down 20% under. Earlier, I was playing around with this and making it higher. So this change is now looking at items that are trading above 5 billion. So that's a little bit more conducive to raw material items in in the most underpriced category. And so we can see here that not only platinum is trading way below 52-week average, but also Maxilon, cadmium, and titanium are as well. Not only that, but if you look at some of the expensive Dead Space modules, if you look at the Pith X-Type Extra Large Shield Booster and the Pith X-Type Shield Boost Amplifier and the Corpus X-Type Large Armor Repair, those three are all high trade volume Dead Space modules that are trading 10 to 15% under 52-week average, and that typically, in my experience, also constitutes a good buy because these Dead Space modules also rise and fall quite cyclically. Overall, battleships seem to be very hot right now. We were seeing a lot of battleships in the trending up items. So for example, the Rattlesnake is one that I mentioned earlier as well. If we're looking at a drop in supply of smaller battleships, we are seeing the Talus and the Vulture, for example, being basically bought out in the market. We're also seeing, in terms of things that are in short supply, apparently Republic Fleet target painters completely sold out. Trigger Unit mentioned that earlier, those are also basically gone from the market. Fullerite C72, we talked about those last week. Also another gas cloud material that might be coming back down in price, but is basically completely gone for the market. So 0.4 means that for Fullerite C72, there's only 0.4 trade days left. So if you look at the overall trade volume, daily trade volume for C72s, 40% of that is currently available in sell orders in the market. So that is very, very little. And that is still a knock-on effect from that big Dread battle we saw 2 weeks ago. All right, anything else I'm seeing interesting here? Another battleship that is trading in high volume is the Redeemer right now. Other than that, I don't think there's anything here that is super interesting. So we're seeing the Omen Navy issue up 27% in price. That is interesting. And the Pith X-Type EM Shield Hardener up 37% in price. If you guys are holding those, make sure you sell them. But yeah. All right. Guys, next week, there's not going to be an Oz report because I'm going to be at FanFest. So I will be streaming live from FanFest. And I will probably put some content up on the podcast and also up on YouTube. But if you want to see me next week on Twitch, then you can see me co-hosting the CCP channel live from FanFest on Friday morning, live from Iceland. So come watch the CCP Twitch channel or watch my live stream live from FanFest. The Oz report is probably going to be back in 2 weeks. And then we're going to be back also with a new Oz tank. So the Shark Tank live show that we're doing once a month is going to be happening on the 30th of September. If you have good ideas to submit, because you're thinking, hey, I want to do X, Y, Z in EVE Online, but I'm missing 10 billion or even 100 billion ISK, then please come to our Discord, submit your idea in the idea submissions channel, and maybe we'll pick you for the show, and maybe you'll receive some funding for your corp, your idea, your service, whatever it is. All right? We're going to return to the regular stream, and I'll see you guys at FanFest.